Hello, welcome back to my channel. We are going to do something a little bit different. We are going to do a divination board kind of tutorial. If this is not your thing, I will not be offended if you just pass on this, and then watch another one that is better suited for you. I will not be offended. I will go into a little bit about the board. If you want to know my thoughts on like ghosts, spirits, demons, why I don't believe in demons, I could do a separate video on that. I don't want this one to be terribly long, so I'm not gonna talk on that stuff a whole lot. But if you want me to go a little bit more in depth on my thoughts on like hauntings and poltergeist activity, stuff that goes on here, a little more in depth, I can definitely do that in a separate video. So just let me know down in the comments. But yeah, if this sounds interesting, stick around. If you're new, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, and let's jump into the video. I'm a little bit out of breath because I was trying to clean up in here, but this is the divination board that I have. It's double-sided, so you have the black side and the white side. I think I've used both. I don't really have a preference. I think I just, however I pick it up and put it down is how I use it. I don't necessarily have a preference over one color or the other, and I don't necessarily think which side you use matters. I use pendulums with it. I'll open this one. I've never used this one. I have 3. The one that I primarily like to use is the rose quartz one, and I like the ones where the chain is connected like that. You've got the bead at the top, and then you'll get answers with that. I do have a amethyst one. You saw me open it. I haven't used this one yet. The other amethyst one that I have in here, I have used, but I don't love this one as well because I don't like this little piece, the clasp that's on here. I couldn't change it out. I have jewelry stuff, so I may do that, but I like when it's just connected completely. This company does it like this. That way you can buy different ones, and it's just easy to swap them out. You don't necessarily need another chain. I just don't love that clasp on there. It works fine. It's just personal preference, really. And then I just keep them in this for no reason. It just happens to be coffin shaped. It's just a clear little acrylic container, so all of my pendulums are in here. Maybe asking, what is the difference between this and a Ouija board? And there really isn't one. These are a little bit easier to use. I feel like it's harder to get a reading, especially when you're doing it by yourself, with the Ouija board and the little planchette. I do have one. The set that I got with the board came with one, but there really isn't one. Ouija boards have a negative image to them, negative propaganda, mainly from horror movies. With any of this, you want to take what you get told with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, you don't know who you're talking to. Same thing with a Ouija board. Ouija boards are not going to attract demons. Again, I don't believe in demons. We can go into that in another video, but you're not going to necessarily be attracting negative entities with the Ouija board or with this. If there's negative entities already around you and you're using one of these, then that's who you're going to be talking to. Now, just like with people, you have good people and bad people, so you can have good spirits and negative spirits floating around. They can come and go. Most spirits are not tied to specific property. I, again, can go into why I think that you will get permanent spirits in a haunted house. And again, we can touch on that in a separate video, but like my situation personally, like we're in a house, it's 2-story, we have a basement. We've started doing construction, so I will check in with the entities that are in the house just to make sure we're not upsetting anybody too badly. Currently, from the last reading that I did with this, there are 3 kind of hanging out here. One of them is my own personal spirit guide, which is whom allegedly I've been talking to. Again, I don't have 100% confirmation, and the other 2 are just passer-buyers, people passing through. I feel like people are generally haunted, not necessarily the house. Nobody has to die in your home for you to be experiencing paranormal activity. That's a myth. And generally, if somebody's died in the house, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the person that is haunting the property. Most people pass on, and if they don't pass on, there's a reason that they're choosing not to. Unfinished business, sometimes they're confused and they don't know they're deceased. There can be a multitude of reasons. Again, I could do a whole video on that. We do have guides that are assigned to us before we, choose to incarnate, like reincarnate each time. My current spirit guide, the one that I have been speaking to, sometimes your spirit guides can be relatives. This one is not, from the best of my knowledge. And they've been with me through my life. As far as I know, the construction is not upsetting anybody that's here. I am not as sensitive to the other realm, whatever you want to call it, spirit world, other realm, powers that be, as I used to be. And again, I have a theory on that. We could go into that later, but again, I do like to check in. And I also think, like, my in-laws are like an old school mentality where if you talk to the spirits, you're going to anger the spirits. But if there's spirits hanging out here, why would you not want to talk to them? They're here for a reason. Some are just meandering through, and they can pick up on when you can sense them, and sometimes we'll choose to hang around a little bit more because of that, and a lot of them are just passing through. So, but let's do a demonstration. I've never done one on camera. Again, if this upsets you, feel free to not watch, but we will demonstrate. Has done, at least witnessed these with me, and I witnessed this with me. I do have dowsing rods, and I can demonstrate with these too. We'll talk about these a little bit, but we'll do that after. So again, we'll use the black side. Let me position you. I'm trying to get you where you can see the board. So we have yes, yes, no, no, and then there are numbers, months. I try and stick to yes and no questions just because that's the easiest way to get a response. Obviously, when you're talking with somebody that you can't hear, makes it challenging. But if I wanted to try and get like a name of who I'm talking to, I would probably use the one that looks like the Ouija board just because it's larger, the letters are spread out. This type of board I feel like works better for yes and no questions. Just basic. Try and get it to where you can see my hand. So I always stabilize it before I start. And I try and be respectful, just like you would with a person. So we'll see if we get a response. We may not. Okay. Hello. Can I ask some questions? So we're getting yes. Thank you. Is it all right if I film asking you questions? So we're getting a yes. Thank you. Am I talking to the spirit that I normally talk to? Yes. Thank you. And like I said, they told me before that they were a spirit guide, so we can ask that question again. Are you one of my spirit guides? Yes. Thank you. Have you been with me a long time? Yes, thank you. Okay, And then I try and be careful about how I phrase questions, but are there still other spirits in the house? Yes, thank you. Are any of the other spirits here negative? No. Thank you. Thank you for answering my questions. So again, sometimes that freaks people out, but you can see like you do get responses. Again, I try and stabilize it in between. I always ask permission. I always thank them for talking to me because they're not obligated to. And so again, I will just kind of get a basis. I will touch base to kind of see who's here. So far, none of them have been negative, at least the ones that are hanging around. Now, every once in a while, I do feel like there is a feisty one. I'll pick up on it a little bit when I'm down in the basement at night. Basements can be a little bit creepy, but again, I don't want to freak anyone out too badly, so I won't go into that too deep on how you can tell, but that is the divination board. So we will talk about dowsing rods. This is an inexpensive set. I think I got it through TikTok shop. I've had a lot of success with the stuff that I've gotten on TikTok shop. These can be used, like these are an old school method for finding wells, like underground water sources, but you can also use them like you would the divination board. Now, my husband has used these, and obviously my spirit guide doesn't really want to talk to him, so he doesn't get as much of a response. His guides are not talking. One could argue that I'm manipulating them, and that's why I get answers and he doesn't, but we can try and do a demonstration and see if we get a response. Again, there's no guarantee, but you use them very similar to the divination board. So I try and get them to where they're stabilized. Okay. Hello, can I ask some questions? So you can see they're starting to turn. So that's yes. When they swing outward, that's a no. Thank you. And I've seen where people ask them to be reset. I don't like to do that. Is it okay if I film asking you questions? Yes. Thank you. Let's see if we can get a no. Let me ask something. Let's see. Are you the one that I normally talk to? This should be a yes. So we're not really picking anything up. Let's see. Are you the normal guide that I normally talk to? I feel like it's trying to go yes, maybe? Okay. Let's see. And then they do move. I try and keep them chest level. Is the construction that we're doing in the house bothering you? No. Again, I always like to check in. We have to do the construction regardless, but you can do things to kind of help. But thank you so much for asking questions. These ones, I get better responses with the board. I've seen a lot of people using these online. I've never really used them a whole lot, so I just got them to kind of experiment. But I generally get same response that I do with the divination board. My husband does not. Like I said, whomever I'm talking to doesn't want to talk to him, which is perfectly fine. But this is another option if you're curious in dabbling and this freaks you out. I will say that this is not going to attract anything. That is a misconception with the Ouija boards, that, you know, those are going to bring negative energy into your house. Ouija boards are only negative if you're using them in a negative manner. Again, you want to take what you get, responses, you know, the answers you get with a grain of salt, because again, you don't know who you're talking to at the end of the day. But this is not going to attract demons. This is not going to attract negative spirits. If there's negative spirits in the space already, then that's who you're going to talk to. But you don't know until you ask. But again, I always try to be respectful and say, you know, ask permission. I always say thank you at the end, because again, they're under no obligation to talk to me. But it is something that I use from time to time just to kind of feel out the energy that's going on in the space, because I'm not as sensitive to it as I was when I was younger. And yeah, I have ordered some sage. We're going to do some sage burning. So if you would like to see me do that, I could definitely have my husband film me. Generally, anytime you leave your house, you should sage a little bit when you come back in, because when you're out in public, that energy that you're out in the world with can attach itself, and then you bring it in and it can convolute like the energy in your house. But I just feel like with us opening walls and ripping up, we're disturbing the energy balance in here. So I think it would behoove us to burn some sage periodically. Again, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, please don't watch those videos. I do want to do one also where I make a scrying mirror, which is a black mirror that can be used in conjunction with meditation to kind of talk to otherworldly entities. Sometimes people get images in them. I've never really used them. I saw a tutorial on how to make one, so I figured I could make one and we could experiment with it together. But I was raised Catholic. I practiced Mormonism for a while. My kids are baptized Lutheran. My daughter goes to the Lutheran private school. Was raised in a religious household. I still believe in God. I don't believe in hell in the traditional sense. But again, we could do a separate video. I believe in energy, and there are energies around us. This is just a means of kind of communicating in a way that I can understand them. So I don't want anybody to think that I am practicing devil worship or whatever you want to, like the negative stigmas with this. I did practice Wiccan for a while. Oh, in my late teens, early 20s. I had a hard time with Wiccan when I was practicing it because they don't have a concept of hell. But I've kind of since changed my viewpoints on that, but it's just a way of focusing energy. So some of like the sage burning and stuff could be considered like dabbling still, but I don't consider it to be that. Like I said, it's more of like energy, cleansing energy, being aware of the energy around you in your space. So yeah, we can definitely do more of these if this is something that's interesting, kind of testing the waters with this video to kind of see how it is received. So let me know. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me again. Hopefully this didn't upset anybody, and hopefully I will see you in another video. Bye everybody.